I think what is for certain, though, with so many people likely still trapped under rubble and with searches still ongoing, it seems very likely the death toll will continue to climb.
One of the photographs that has come in from the remote part of Indonesia hit by an earthquake shows a school where one half has collapsed. The other half is still standing, but it's leaning at a sickening angle. Another one of the same school shows the inside of a classroom. You can see it because one wall has been shaken down. Bizarrely, you can see several wooden chairs standing on top of desks covered in rubble. Children must have put up the chairs tidily at the end of the day, and somehow the earthquake didn't make the chairs fall. We know at least 162 people were killed by the earthquake and hundreds more are injured. Let's speak to Max Walden, who's an ABC journalist in Australia. He specialises in Asia and the Pacific and has been following the story. Morning to you, Max.
Good morning.
What is the latest then on casualties and injuries, deaths as well?
Yeah, well, actually, the figure 162 that's been reported, that was mentioned by the West Java Governor Ridwan Kamil. In fact, the Disaster Management Agency subsequently said that that was not a verified figure, but has pretty much just provided an update to say that they've confirmed 103 deaths. I think what is for certain, though, with so many people likely still trapped under rubble and with searches still ongoing, it seems very likely the death toll will continue to climb.
And what do we know about the actual earthquake itself? How long did the tremors go on for?
Well, it was a 5.6 magnitude earthquake, which is sort of, I suppose a medium strength earthquake, but I believe there were sort of 80 aftershocks, so, fairly significant. I guess the key point here is that Java is, of course, the most densely populated island on the planet. Um, West Java being Indonesia's most populous province. So you've sort of got, 50 million people in something like 35,000 square kilometers. It's a very, even though it is sort of rural and regional, it's still very densely populated. So it's not so much necessarily the strength of the quake itself, but the fact that it hit, a place where so many people live. And yes, indeed, where infrastructure is not necessarily fantastic. A lot of the images we're seeing spread on WhatsApp. I've got family in Indonesia, and even though a lot of these are not necessarily verified by news organizations, I've seen lots of pretty horrific images of roads completely and utterly, landslides and all sorts of challenges to, I suppose, search and rescue efforts that perhaps are more difficult in an area like around Cianjur, where this earthquake has taken place.
And you said that obviously they're still looking for people and that the death toll may rise. But in terms of people who have survived but may have lost their homes or their businesses,
Mm.
in a situation like this, what happens? Where do those people go?
Yeah, well, I believe about 13,000 people have sort of been relocated to temporary shelters. I think more than 2,000 homes have been destroyed by the earthquake. Of course, the Red Indonesian Red Cross and NGOs like Save the Children on the ground, providing assistance to survivors and locals. And I believe as well, the president Joko Widodo is there on the ground too, to sort of oversee some of these rescue efforts.
And
Uh,
and just finally, is the danger over? Because I read a warning earlier about from an official saying that they still worry about aftershocks and tremors. As far as you're aware, is the danger now over?
yeah, I mean, there is certainly still the possibility of aftershocks. Thankfully, I guess this is a part of the world where people are pretty used to earthquakes. I think probably the biggest risk to public health and safety at the moment is that a lot of local hospitals and medical facilities have been damaged. So, we've seen images of people having to be treated in the car parks of hospitals, etc. And so, yeah, even as survivors are perhaps pulled from the rubble, the standard of medical care that they can receive is perhaps also a bit of a shortcoming.
Max, thank you for talking to us. That is Max Walden, who's an ABC journalist in Australia.